All right, everybody, good evening. Welcome to another Tiger Bait Facebook Live brought to you by Pride Roofing. Of course, they're the official roofing company of TigerBait.com, and we've got a lot to talk about tonight. Obviously, we've moved this chat now to Thursday nights, and there might even be some weeks during the high school football season where we do it on Wednesday. Preston did his last night. We might do two shows on Wednesday, or maybe one on Tuesday, one on Wednesday, all depending on if I'm in a high school football stadium on a Thursday night seeing one of LSU's recruiting targets. I'm hitting the road tomorrow night. I'm still trying to decide what game, and I'll decide at the last minute. Of course, they're just doing scrimmages. One of the scrimmages we had earlier tonight, which I'm waiting to get a report on, was St. Thomas More hosting Notre Dame. I know that I think they got started around 6 o'clock. And I've got someone who's promised me some video of that for Tiger Bait for tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. I also have an interview with Matt Wyatt, who is the voice of the Mississippi State Bulldogs. A lot of you are probably familiar with his film breakdowns, and excellent guy, one of the best in the business. I know most of last year, throughout LSU's national championship run, each week it seemed like he did a breakdown of LSU's game that week, and even though he's a former Mississippi State quarterback and the voice guy for the Mississippi State Bulldogs, absolutely does a fantastic job on YouTube breaking down film. And he did one of Miles Brennan this morning, which I'm going to have some info on. And I did a what we call Behind Enemy Lines, where he gives his thoughts on Saturday's matchup with LSU from a Mississippi State perspective. And obviously they're excited about the Mike Leach era in Starkville. And boy, I tell you, I don't think it's just them. I think that they are looking at that. I just checked it before we went live. The line is 16.5. I know there was some that LSU was giving up 17.5. And I think there's a lot of LSU fans that might place wagers that might be willing to give up the points just because there's a lot of unknowns with this LSU football team. I've got you guys down in the chat. So if you hit me with some questions, I'll be sure to get to them while we're here live. I guess probably for the next 20 to 30 minutes. And so I'll be here for you. Obviously, a lot of guys come to TigerBait.com, guys and gals, come to TigerBait.com for recruiting info. Started tracking the story yesterday morning, rumors of Corey Foreman. Of course, the five-star defensive lineman from Centennial, California, about 6'5", 255, 260. We talk about him every week on this show. We talk about him every week in our all-day LSU chats on TigerBait.com. And obviously, arguably the number one rated defensive lineman in the country. Came in weeks ago for that weekend visit with the other LSU commitments and LSU targets. And now he's supposed to be coming back in this weekend. Dale Broussard, yeah, Matt did do a great job, film study of Brennan. And I think, look, there's guys in every market that are homers. I think Matt Wyatt over at Mississippi State is absolutely the best. Go to his YouTube channel and subscribe to him. I think you'll like what he does from week to week, not just the Mississippi State opponents that he features. And I gave him a tip. A lot of you that know me know I'm a bit of a foodie. I told him, when are you coming in town? Where are you going to eat? And I told him to hit Elsie's Plate and Pie, which is my number one. And of course, I think he's driving up Saturday morning, so it's not like he's got a whole lot of time. So maybe he'll get one of them in. And I told him, if the line's not bad, hit Torchy's across from the stadium. So those are my two. Russ Longway, haven't had a commitment in a month. Anybody going to pull the trigger for us soon? I was asked in our all-day chat yesterday, and I wanted to talk about that tonight. Always get Mike filling the last 7 spots for LSU's recruiting class. They will sign a full class of 25. So when you figure in Sage Ryan from Lafayette Christian, the safety, I know he, is put out a top 3 and he had Clemson, Alabama in there. I just don't see anybody leaping over LSU for him. I've had him in the probable category to LSU for over a year probably. Mason Smith, I know, look, made a lot of people nervous when we looked up and he was in Athens, Georgia for that weekend that they had there, and he was there with Corey Foreman. That makes people nervous. And look, there's no denying it. Not necessarily with defensive linemen, but when Georgia is involved with linemen, we saw it with Cedric Van Pran out of New Orleans last year. I'm not going to insinuate anything, but maybe I guess I am. When they're involved there always things can happen with Kirby Smart, and I know some of you will chime in the comments section. He learned from the best. That's a bit of the point. So I still say Mason Smith ends up at LSU. The relationship that he has with Ed Orgeron, Christian Locouture, and it's those two relationships there with Ed Orgeron and Corey Foreman. You know, when Corey committed to Clemson in January, that was a shocker. One of the things that Mason Smith had told me in December or early January was that Corey had not had a phone call or a conversation, whether it's Zoom, Skype, FaceTime, whatever the format was being used. I want to say Orgeron was using FaceTime back in the day. Now they do use all the formats. But he was talking to Orgeron almost every day. Yet he goes to Clemson, and I don't feel it's like a fraternity hotbox situation, but he left that weekend, committed to Clemson, and then we know the story several months later, decommitted, opened it back up. My USC sources out west were, of course, maybe getting a little bit of a homer slant from them, were saying that they thought USC was going to get him then. They were pretty cocky about a new AD and maybe them being up to their old tricks with the way things used to happen with Reggie Bush. But either way, it's been LSU and Georgia for months. I think it's LSU and Georgia for both Corey Foreman and Mason Smith. I think Mason Smith is definitely LSU. The fact that Corey Foreman's coming back this weekend, and I don't think he's going to be hard for any of you that are going to be a part of the 25% on campus this Saturday to spot him. I think the big question though is I reached out to our resident attorney on Tiger Bait, Kenneth Haynes, Tiger Shark, on our message board, and his law firm will be sponsoring our post-game show Saturday night that everybody, all of you guys and gals loved last year, our walk to the car that Preston and I would do. This year it's going to be a bit different because of COVID. We're going to be doing it right here from the sofa with the fancy lamp from the Ming Dynasty. So you'll want to check us for the post-game show on Facebook Live after the LSU Mississippi State game. It'll probably be, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes to an hour after the game ends. We'll file our reports, get all the video up, Ed Orgeron, player interviews, etc., and then we'll go live here. Two of us will be in the press box, and then we'll come back here. One of us will have been in the stadium. One of us will be here watching it and holding down the fort, but we'll have that for you. Before I go any further, I want to talk about Pride Roofing. Obviously, we're excited to have them on board. It is a major sponsor of TigerBait.com and these Facebook Live chats. As I've said before, I grew up with Mike Fairday, and he's got a spectacular company with his partner, Alex Martinez, and absolutely the best people that you want to do business with. If you've got a roof issue, if you're due for a new roof, they got you covered from Texas, from the border at Texas all the way to the Mississippi border, South Mississippi. And of course, Mike is a Broadmoor graduate, an LSU grad, and licensed, bonded, insured. They've got a 5-year roof warranty, best in the business. It doesn't matter if you're building a man cave or whatever you've got, a mother-in-law suite, any of your roofing needs. They've got a way to give you a roundabout quote based off of an overflight satellite imagery. Check out Pride Roofing. They're the best in the business. Call 225-275-2041. And like I said, they've got a 5-year labor warranty, best in the business. You're not going to find that anywhere else in South Louisiana. You want to use Pride Roofing for all your roofing needs. And like I've been saying, a lot of you in the Lake Charles area, they were stationed in Sulphur, and we've got a number for you in the Lake Charles area, 337-377-0805. they're on standby to come out and see you, give you a quote, and get your roof in tip-top shape and covering your home as quick as possible. Pride Roofing, the official roofing company of TigerBait.com. And like I said, super people. 2:30 kickoff. I know Jacques Doucet asked Ed Orgeron about it tonight. Did he notice that the mood of the town? And I know what Jacques talking about. Of course, Jacques out and about a lot more than me. But it's just an odd. Of course, the whole year has just been absolutely bonkers, and one we're all ready to be done with. But it sure just feels like coming off a 15-0 season. Whether you have high expectations, if you're like me, I know Preston has LSU at 8-2. Brian Lazar, our Tiger Bait senior writer, is predicted 8-2. But it's whether they end up 9-1 or 7-3, you just get the opinion. And look, I talk to LSU people all day long that it's almost like we want to see football, we want to see the newcomers, we want to see how Miles Brennan's going to do, and then let the cards fall where they may, regroup, and then really 2021 being the year for LSU. I think as the season goes along, people get more excited. But one of the things that I talked about with Matt, and I'll be a feature for tomorrow morning on Tiger Bait, is they're real in Starkville. They really think they have a chance at coming in and upsetting LSU. Obviously, with 25% capacity, I still think Tiger Stadium can be loud and have an atmosphere. I know Shelly Mullinex tweeted out the walkthrough on Saturday where they had the band there and where they would be stationed. And so it's going to be interesting to see if there's any type of home field advantage that can still be there with a 25% capacity. Obviously, they're going to want to throw the ball around. But one of the keys that Matt says, and I agree with him, is they're going to want to test LSU's offensive line, Liam Shanahan at center, some new faces, and they want to get pressure on Miles Brennan and see how he reacts. They're going to want to hit him. They're going to want to see how he reacts compared to Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow thrives off getting hit. Does Miles Brennan do the same? Does he fold up? How does he handle the pressure? And that's going to be one of their keys. And so I think you're going to see a steady dose of Chris Curry. I think LSU's going to go to the power running game. And one of the guys, I think anybody who's followed the roster, follows recruiting, one of the newcomers that we're all excited to see is Eric Gilbert, the tight end, the 5-star. Hasn't played it down for LSU, and he's already third team All SEC in the preseason All SEC teams that were released. The coaches were yesterday. So a lot of newcomers. Who are some of the guys that y'all want to see? I know in my case, I mentioned Eric Gilbert. Obviously, Miles Brennan goes without saying. There's some reason to be excited about him at 218 pounds. He looks the part now versus when he first arrived on campus. Ali Gay shows up on the depth chart released on Monday as a starter. Certainly Andre Anthony is going to play as well. But Ali was one of those raw, big defensive linemen that we were, watching his film when he committed LSU last fall. I know Christian Lockentor and Ed Orgeron and Coach Johnson are ecstatic about him. I want to see him. Jacobian Guillory has an ankle, so we're not going to see him this week. Is there going to be some plays where we see Jaquelin Roy? Neil Farrell, I think maybe he might be in a little bit better shape than Ed Orgeron and them are putting on. I don't think the amount of time that he missed opting out and then opting back in is going to affect him nearly as bad as you think. Either way, I think with the early season schedule, he'll be ready to go for Florida at 100%, I think. B.J. Ojolari, one that they were raving about early in spring practice. We had two practices and was canceled. Jabril Cox, we keep hearing about him nonstop. Ed Orgeron talks about him even at nickel if need be. So we're excited to see him. Nobody is really talking about Todd Harris. Obviously, got hurt last year. Really want to see him. Liam Shanahan, obviously, at center, replacing Lloyd Cushenberry. A tall order. Lloyd Cushenberry was absolutely pivotal in LSU's national championship run. We talk about Eric Gilbert at tight end. I think Cole Taylor is a guy that gets lost. I think he's got a chance to do some special things for LSU early on. Does he see the field this Saturday? And then Keyshawn Butte, wide receiver, freshman. We know about his speed, 100, 200-meter guy in track out of Westgate, New Iberia. Fantastic athlete. I think Keyshawn could have been an all-SEC cornerback if he wanted to be. He could play on either side of the ball. And already he's listed as a starter at wide receiver, along with Racy McMath, Terrace Marshall. And then we'll see Coy Moore. Trey Palmer's a guy that, are the new freshman coming in and leaping right over him. We'll see. Mark Chambers, tight end, a question mark. Can he block? We're going to find out. We're going to find out. But, is that a deal where if you're needing the guy to block, is that when you see Torrey Carter there? Bo Pelini's defense, yes. I think Orgeron's enthusiasm for the LSU defense is warranted. He's thrown some shade at Dave Aranda at various times in the offseason. I think he's been ready to go to a 4-3 for quite some time. And, look, when Bo Pelini's name first surfaced, I was like, there is no way. Orgeron's a fiery guy. Pelini's a fiery guy. Both of them are defensive guys. Both of them coach the defense in practice, obviously. Orgeron's always with the defensive line. But it might just be that those two guys butting heads at various times is a good thing. So I'm excited to see it. I know the players love Bo Pelini. Every former LSU player that I talked to that was coached by Bo Pelini back in 2007, once he got the job, was absolutely fired up to have him back in the LSU program. It's going to bode well for LSU's defensive linemen. I did a Zoom call last week with Ronnie Rance and Derry Beckwith, and we talked about going from the 3-4 to the 4-3. Defensive linemen are more happy about it than anybody because now it's their job to get up and get pressure on the quarterback. They're going to have more tackles at the end of the year than in previous years in a 3-4. I think you're going to have linebackers that are maybe not going to be as sore each week after games because they're not going to be carrying the load like they do in a 3-4. So we'll see how it plays out. They got a tall order. They're going to throw the ball around a lot in Mike Leach's offense. And a lot of I think we're just all going to go into the game Saturday with our eyes open and say, let's see what we got. Because we didn't have spring football. There was no spring game. None of us in the media were even allowed our usual 15 to 20 minutes at each practice in August. We've just been all Zoom and that's been it. So we're us in the media are going into Saturday's game as blind as the fans. Let's see. Let me get some of your questions. Let's see. Dale Broussard. We'll see a heavy dose of running back. No doubt. I think Chris Curry getting 18, by the way, that's absolutely phenomenal. It was this time last year where we were just talking about when's Chris Curry going to transfer out. You got these new freshmen, John Emery, the 5-star, Tyrion Davis-Price, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Curry's just lost in the shuffle. And then the way he ended the season, absolutely pivotal in the SEC championship game, the national championship game. What a way for him to end last year. He comes back and persevered, gets number 18. Just an absolute fantastic story. And what did I tell you guys? I predicted he would get 18. I was saying it here in these chats and on our message boards and a bunch of radio shows that I was a guest on in the last 4 to 6 weeks. Dale Broussard predicting a pick 6 for the Tigers. Could very well be there. Got some fantastic defensive backs along with Derek Stingley. But yeah, I think LSU wants to be as on the plus side of turnovers in 2020 as they were in 2019. I want to talk to you again about going back to the recruiting component. Last 7 spots. Talked about some of the guys to fill it. Sage Ryan, Mason Smith, Brian Thomas from Walker, obviously, wide receiver. I know a lot of people think that's an LSU-Alabama battle. I think the one, if kids can make visits, it's the official visit to A&M for Brian Thomas. I think he gets an official visit somewhere else, But look, if he doesn't get that official visit, he's going to make a decision. But I think he would like to make a visit to Texas A&M because Tommy Robinson was recruiting him at LSU. There's a relationship there. But I think in the end he ends up at LSU. Him and Chris Hilton have gotten to be close friends. And my conversations with him, I think a lot of you saw I went out to Walker a couple of weeks ago for one of their practices. And so we'll see how that goes. Savion Byrd was a part of that group that came in for that weekend with Garrett Nussmeier and Tristan Lay and Mason and all the rest. And, of course, from Duncanville, Texas, offensive guard. I have him as part of LSU's class right now. I know they felt real good about where they sit with him. So then that leaves 2 more spots. Is that second spot another quarterback? Is it a second running back? Is it a second tight end like Michael Trigg, who's also a basketball player, battling South Carolina for him? And then is it one of those 3 positions taking a second player, tight end, quarterback, running back, and Corey Foreman? Is that your 25? So when you really think about it, and I don't see anybody on LSU's commitment list wavering, this class, for the most part, you know who to follow the rest of the way. So if you're into recruiting, you're going to be paying attention this high school football season. This is all really about 2022. And the coaching staff really has their work cut out for them in the coming months because they didn't have the camps. They didn't have a spring evaluation period, and they're going to be trying to evaluate players without being able to see them in person because the dead period, as you all know, has been extended to the end of the year. So, obviously they're going to push for some junior days early in the year. But what the COVID has done to recruiting isn't really affecting 21 so much. But where it's going to be a bigger deal is the class of 2022. They've got to do evaluations in a whole different way on that class, and that's going to be, I think, the major focus of this year. We can talk about Brian Thomas and Sage Ryan every week, and it's vitally important to finish out this class. But really, when you go down the line and start filling it out, you can fill in 5 immediately, and I think I have all those guys in the probable: Sage, Brian Thomas, Tristan Lay, Savion Byrd, and then from there you go to Corey Foreman, and whether there's a second running back, a second tight end, or a second quarterback. If there's a second quarterback, Cole Lord from out in Los Angeles, who I've talked about. His dad's originally from New Iberia. Of course, they're not playing football, and that's going to be an interesting one. I know Texas has offered him a preferred walk-on. He's got an offer from UL Lafayette. He's got an offer from Liberty and Hugh Freeze and some others. So Cole Lord is going to be one to watch there. Or is he going to be a kid that I know a lot of people want to say, well, can LSU get him as a preferred walk-on? I don't know if Cole wants to do that, but we're going to be following him closely as well. So let me see if I missed any of you guys' questions. If I missed them, go to tigerbait.com. We want you to subscribe. We've got a lot for you this football season. I've got that premium content item on Matt Wyatt. And I tell you what, this week of high school football is scrimmages, of course. And then next week, it starts the full slate of actual games in Louisiana high school football. And I think we're going to be out, myself and 3 others. We're going to be at 4 games next week. So we're going to have all that footage for you at tigerbait.com. Nobody does LSU prospect video better than we do. And so go to tigerbait.com, subscribe for $1. You get to try us out for a week. I promise you'll enjoy the site. We want to have you. And do yourself a favor. I always say it. Don't do the $10.95 a month. Choose the annual. You basically get 3 months free with the annual. It's less expensive. And we want you at tigerbait.com if you're an LSU fan. So let me do one more pass to see if I missed anything. If not, go to our message board. I'm on the Tiger Bait premium message board, the Tiger Den, day and night, answering questions. And let's see. Jamie Brady, anybody in this class gets dropped out? No, I don't see it. Daniel Sahuki. Boy, I'm butchering that one, and I'm usually good about pronouncing names. I'm hearing Rick starting opposite Flott at nickel. That's one of the things Ed Orgeron talked about tonight in his post-practice Zoom call with the media, which he went for about 8 minutes. You can find that on the front page of tigerbait.com. That's a freebie, and it's linked here on Facebook. By the way, do me a favor, please, everybody. Hit the like button on this video and share it. It helps with our algorithm, and we want to get some more viewers. Much appreciated for those of you that share our videos on your Facebook timeline. And Orgeron talked about that. And look, you've got several people. He even mentioned Jabril Cox being able to play some nickel if needed. And that's what's going to be so interesting. We've been watching a 3-4 for years now. Obviously, the era of John Chavis isn't too far in our memory, and a lot of things similar with that. But LSU is going to be in a 4-2-5 a lot this weekend against Mike Leach, which so I think it's going to be a whole lot of different things. I think one of the things defensively that I'm going to pay attention to is how they bring the pressure. Certainly in a 3-4, you're using a lot more of your angular, tweener, linebacker, defensive end types to bring the pressure and try to get to the quarterback. This year it's going to be a lot more brute force and trying to do it with your beefier guys. But how do they bring guys off the edge? What are the blitz packages? How different are those? It's going to be a whole different ballgame under Bo Pelini. And I don't necessarily think of what you saw from him 13 years ago is what he's doing now. He's getting up in age, and of course he and I are the same age. He's got some new tricks in his bag. He's not still doing what he was doing 13 years ago, I assure you. That's all for me tonight, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe to tigerbait.com. We'll be back here next week. We're doing more of these now, and hit the notification bell to receive a notification when we go live. And thanks for all of you for viewing and interacting with me. And we'll see you Saturday post-game about an hour after the game ends. Preston and I will do our live post-game show. We'll have a lot to talk about, likely talking about an LSU win, and hopefully talking about how great Miles Brennan looks. And then everybody who, and maybe we'll be saying, boy, that 8-2 we were talking about, boy, maybe I need to be going 9-1 or 10-0 after what we see on Saturday. So we'll have it all for you then and on tigerbait.com. And so see you then. Good night.